Look at that intense stare down between Goku and Vegeta. Awesome. And this is probably what it looks like to get a Kamehameha to the face. Awesome. This is Super Butoden 3 for the Super Famicom. One of my very, very few import games, the only I have for the Super Nintendo. And this is a 2D fighting game. I like to call it Blond People the game. If you enter a little button combo code at the beginning, you can get future Trunks here. A lot of people like Trunks. The first thing I noticed when I first started playing this game is that it controls a little sluggish. But that's probably the only real flaw with it. Now I'm going to go ahead and start off by saying this game is not for everyone. This is only for Dragon Ball fans, and amongst them, hardcore Dragon Ball fans, because this is a 15-year-old Super Nintendo game. And better Dragon Ball Z fighting games do exist. Games like Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3, that's a hell of a game. I think non-fans can enjoy that. Now some of the animations I think could be better, like when they do their super moves, or their little auras when they charge up. I think that could look a little bit better. The game plays a little bit like Street Fighter 2 in that that's how you perform the super moves. The same way you do a Hadouken will probably get you a Kamehameha in this game. It's very similar style inputs for the super moves. Now, if you time it right, you can get into a beam struggle. And I'm not quite sure on how the beam struggles are determined. I think it's based on your key meter. Whoever has the most key wins the beam struggle. The music's not bad either, and I think the graphics are pretty colorful and sharp looking. You can definitely tell you're Trunks or Vegeta. But look at all those blonde people. With the exception of Dabura, Majin Buu, and Kaioshin, it's just a bunch of blonde honkies. Guess they're not honkies, they're probably Japanese people. They look like honkies. With all that damn blonde hair. You wouldn't think it, but there's a lot of people that don't really even know that Dragon Ball Z is Japanese. They just know it's that show that was on Cartoon Network about 10 years ago when they got home from school. My level of fandom is I'm fully aware of the Japanese version, and I prefer to read the comic books, which started out strong. After a little bit of fan reaction, they made sure to keep everything unedited. But if you get the graphic novel releases, there are some edits. Like when Bulma takes her knockers out, they are covered up in the Shonen Jump graphic novels. I do have the original monthly comic book releases. I'm only missing a few, but the original monthly comic book releases go from the very beginning of Dragon Ball all the way up to when you first meet Yajirobe. And I do kind of mix the names that I use for the characters. I use some of the dub names and a lot of the Japanese names. Like, that's Android 18, not Jinzaningen 18 to me, because, damn it, I speak English. And I also heard Android 18 first. Here she manages to initiate a beam struggle. And I'm not really mashing any buttons or anything. So I think I win just because I've got about 1/3 of my key meter filled. So that was pretty cool. It's always fun in these Dragon Ball games when you initiate a beam struggle. I actually do kind of like the music in this game. I think this character select is pretty good. Now, the biggest flaw with the game for me is that it's pretty much a two-player game. If you want to play against the computer, you're going to have to pick a character and then pick a computer-controlled character. There's no tournament mode, so you can't just, you know, pick Majin Vegeta and go through a tournament mode and play the game that way, which doesn't make sense because Dragon Ball Z is perfect for a tournament-based fighter. Now, there is a tournament mode, but it's 8 players, so you gotta have a friend and pick, you know, 4 characters, unless you have 8 people and want to swap controllers around, which is possible, I guess. It's probably a hell of a lot more possible in 1993 Japan, or whichever year this game was released. I do think the sound is probably the strongest feature in this game. The little voice captures, like when Vegeta just said Big Bang Attack, it's pretty damn good for a Super Nintendo game. And when you're wailing on people, just, you know, throwing out random punches and kicks, it does feel a little on the sluggish side, but it's nothing major. I also really like how the screen splits in half when your character gets too far away. Using the shoulder buttons, L and R, is how you dash left or right. And then there's a button that will make your guy fly, using the awesome move of Buku Jutsu. Each character has 2 key-based attacks, or 2 key-based super attacks. You can also throw out the, you know, just a small fireball. And I believe here I show the 8-player tournament mode. Oh wait, no, this is computer versus computer. Yeah, there's a computer versus a computer mode. Another major flaw in the game is the character selection. It's just a bunch of blonde people. I mean, granted, the point in this series this takes place, these are the main characters, and for the most part, they spend their days as, you know, blonde, spiky-headed dudes. But I'm more of a Dragon Ball fan, and would like to have seen, you know, Yamcha, Krillin, Master Roshi. Those are the characters I like the most. Super Butodens 1 and 2 take place in their own little time frame within the series, and have the characters to reflect that. So depending on which characters you like, that's which version of the game you should get. I probably would have been a lot happier with Super Butoden 2. So at least you have Piccolo. And I believe Frieza is in there. I actually like Frieza. I think he's a good villain. He's a lot more menacing if you read the comic books or listen to the Japanese dub. So this is definitely much more a two-player game. Unfortunately, I don't have friends that give a shit about Dragon Ball Z, or particularly want to come all the way over to my house to play Super Nintendo games. And here's the mode where you fill up the roster. And this is a two-player only mode. If you could make the computer control a character too, I probably would have had a lot more fun. So I'm definitely not giving this a Mondo Cool. This is more of it's for me, but definitely not for everybody. It's not a doo-doo game. There's fun to be had with this game. It's fun to fire up every now and then and, you know, punch Trunks in the balls as, you know, Majin Buu. That's kind of fun from time to time. So, if you saw this game for a few bucks and you really like Dragon Ball Z, then I'd say go ahead and pick it up. But for anyone else, the amount of effort that you'd have to expend to get this game's definitely not worth it. I would say, you know, pass it for almost everybody except for hardcore Dragon Ball fans. As always, I have more videos and reviews on the way. And if you haven't, check out the Mondo Coolcast. It's probably the greatest podcast on the internet.